Well, folks. This is your tutor, Mr. Matleviani. Let me greet you again. And if it is for the first time that you watch my videos in my channel, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your colleagues, with your folks, friends, and family members so that we educate the nation. So in this video, I will specifically be looking at grade 10 syllabus. Okay, let me talk with the grade 10s. It's for the first time that I talk with the grade 10s. I used to talk with the grade 11s and the grade 12s. Okay, now, but this is for everybody, because when you are in grade 12, it means you also need the knowledge for grade 10, grade 11, also for grade 10. So without any further ado, let me hop into it. Okay, let's check. You are actually given a question. It says the graphs of f of x is equals to x squared minus 4. Obviously, this is the parabola, because if you check, if the exponent is 2, like I always indicated, it means you have two roots. It means it's a parabola. But you check this one, x, the exponent of x is 1, so it means it's a linear equation. So you have the parabola and the straight line, or the linear equation. Okay. Now, they are sketched below. There are certain things that we can actually see here. One, we can actually see that A and B are the x-intercepts, and when we say intercept is the cut. So this is where the graph of f, this is where the parabola actually cut the x-axis at B and A. But at the same time, we also have C and D. You look at C and D, these are actually the y-cuts. These are the y-intercepts of F and G. Okay, because at D, this is for the straight line, and then at C, this is for the parabola, respectively. When you say respectively, we mean the way they follow one another in that order. If you started with a C, it means C is for F, and then G is for G. And we also know that K is a point on G, such that, rectify this, such that BK is parallel to the y-axis, not x-axis, or BK is perpendicular to the x-axis. So BK is perpendicular to x-axis, is a typing error here, or BK is parallel to the y-axis. But we also know that F and G intersected what? At A and E. People, at the point of intersection of two graphs or more, the equations of the two graphs are equal. Put that in your head. Okay? Please, this is very important. At the point of intersection, what is happening? The equations of the graphs consent. If they are 2, then they are equal. If they are 3, they are also equal. Okay? Remember that. Now, let's just hop into the questions. The first question says, write down the coordinates of C. This is what we're going to do. We look at the solution for 5.1. Okay? Write down the coordinates of C. What do we know? We know that C is a point. It's a point on f of x. And at your level, when you say f of x is equals to x squared minus 4, what are we trying to say? We are trying to say this equation is in this form. F of x is equals to ax squared plus q. But what does A tell us? A will actually, if it is positive, your graph will actually have a minimum turning point. It is a smiley face. It's a smiley face. But if A is negative, then it will be a frowning face. It will be a sad face. So in this case, it means our A is positive. So if there is nothing here, it means this is 1. So it's 1 multiplied by x squared. And then plus, this is the plus for the equation. And then what is the value of q? The value of q is what? It's minus 4. But what does q tell us? Q is actually telling us two things about the parabola when it is in this form. When it is in the form of ax squared plus q. It is actually giving us the y-cut. That is the first thing. But at the same time, the q that you see here is actually giving us the turning point. So it means at the turning point, because the turning point is the y-intercept. To have a point on the y-axis, x must be 0. To have a point on the x-axis, it means y must be 0. So in this case, it means we already know the value of y at c. And the value of y at c is what? Is 0. But we don't know the value of y. The value of x is 0. But we don't know the value of y. The value of y is given by q, and our q is minus 2. Therefore, it means the coordinates of C will be 0 and minus 4, which is your q. How hard is that? Very simple. This is how you get your mark. You get your 1 mark. Let me clap hands for you, okay? This is how you get your 1 mark out of 18 marks of this question. Okay? Then after finding the coordinates of C, write them down. Put them in the graph. Everything that you calculate, put it here. So you can see it is now clean. But by the end of this video, we'll be having values everywhere. Okay? Now, Let's move on. Now we check a solution for 5.2. In 5.2 it says write down the coordinates of D. What do we know about D? D is the y-intercept of G. Okay? Is the y-intercept of G of x. So it means this is a point where the straight line is cutting the y. And then I've indicated that to have a point on the y-axis, anywhere on the y-axis, it means x is equal to 0. To have a point anywhere on the x-axis, it means y is equal to 0. So it means at D, we already know that y is equal to 0. Okay? We already know that y is equal to 0. But we know this is a point on the straight line. And this equation is given in this form. F of x is equal to ax plus q. Or f of x is equal to mx plus q. mx plus c. Or y is equal to ax plus q. It doesn't matter, but the a represents the gradient and the q is actually the y-cut, which is here. So at the y-cut, we know that y is equal to 0. So it means when we are looking at our graph, it says minus x. It means it's minus 1 multiplied by x plus, and then our q is what? It's positive. You will write your q with its sign. So it's positive 2. You must also write positive 2 here. Okay? So it means our a in this case is minus 1, and then our q is equal to 2. But we already know the value of y here. By the way, what is the value of y here? Exactly 0. The value of x is what? 0. All right. Now it means at D we know x is equal to 0. Therefore, the y-cut or the y-intercept will be 0 and q. What is the value of q? Is 2. Therefore, it means the coordinates of D will be 0 and 2. Okay? Sorry. That is how you get your 1 mark. Very simple. Let me clap hands for you. Okay, you have another mark that is 2 marks out of 18 marks. Okay? Then from there you write the coordinates of D. You put them in the graph. Okay? Without wasting time, let's move on to the next. So now we'll be looking at a solution for 5.3. 5.3 says determine the length of CD. But what is CD? CD, people, is this distance. The distance that you see here is the vertical distance. And people, the vertical distance is defined by y values. And the horizontal distance is defined by x values. So it means when we want this distance, we only focus on one. We only focus on the y values here. We look at the y value at D and the y value at C. So if you take the y value, it's a change. It's a change from here to here. If you say the value of y at D minus the value of y at C, then you get this distance. Okay? And the value of y at D is 2, and the value of y at C is minus 4. Be careful. Open the brackets, because the value of y at D is 2 minus, this is minus for the equation, and then y at C is minus 4. So negative multiplied by negative, that will give you positive, and this doesn't need a metric brain. 2 plus 4 is actually 6. Therefore, it means CD or DC is equal to 6 units. We write units because we don't know the units here. It might be millimeters, it might be centimeters, it might be kilometers, but the fact is it's a particular unit because it's the length, it's the distance between 2 points. You get my point. Now, this is how you get your 1 mark for CD. It's just by inspection. So I'm writing all these particular steps so that you understand how the 6 came about. Okay? The reason why I'm creating these videos is because I want you to understand. I want to simplify. I want to simplify the understanding. It will be useless for me to say CD is equal to 6 units when you don't know where it comes from. Okay? The reason why I'm creating these videos is because I want to simplify the mathematics here. Okay? Now, let's continue. That is how you'll get your 1 mark. Okay? And we can actually take the CD and write it in the graph. Now, let's look at 5.4. We'll actually look at solution for 5.4. What is 5.4 telling us? Saying calculate the coordinates of B. What do we know about B? B is the x-intercept of what? Not of G. Is the x-intercept of what? Of G. Of F. The x-intercept of F, of the parabola. But it is not the only x-intercept. A is also the x-intercept. Okay? So, but we know at B, because this is the x-intercept, it means the value of y or the value of f of x. People, when you say function with respect to the independent variable, so the function with respect to a particular variable is y, is the same thing. So when somebody says f of x, g of x, h of x is the same as y. So at B, y is equal to 0 or f of x is equal to 0. Okay? But B, look at B. B, people, it's a point on this graph, on the parabola. Okay? So it means our equation our equation of the parabola is given by f of x is equals to x squared minus 4. So it means where I see f of x, I will actually put what? 0. So you have 0 is equals to x squared minus 2. But you realize something here on the right hand side. Okay? What is it that you see? Exactly. This is a difference of 2 squares. If we write 4 as a square number, it will be written as 2 squared. Okay? So the base is 2. So it means the first factor is x minus 2, and the other factor will be the same factor with the opposite side. Okay? So it means the factors of x squared minus 4 is equals to x minus 2 into x plus 2. Or somebody can still take, you can take minus 4 to the other side and take the square root. But when you take the square root, don't forget to write plus or minus. Okay? So it means the factors of x squared minus 4 will be x minus 2 into x plus 2. Therefore, x is equals to 2 or x is equals to minus 2. Oh, this is a cul-de-sac now. Now we are confused because we can't have two values of x at one point. Okay? So it means we must make a choice. Now you check. We are having two x-intercepts. It's b and a. So it means out of these roots that we are having here, out of the values of x that we are having, one value is for b and one value is for a. So you check. A is on the positive side of x, and then b is on the negative side. So by default, it means at b, x is equals to minus 2. But at a, x will be equals to 2 if we were to determine the value of the coordinates of a. Okay? Thus, it means the coordinates of b is actually minus 2 because b is on the negative side or on the negative x-axis. Okay? So this is how you get your 3 marks. And be careful. Then the marks that are given to a question will actually tell you how much time you are supposed to spend on that question. So if it is 3 marks, it means you are not supposed to spend more than 3 minutes on that question. Okay? If it is 1 mark, you are not supposed to spend more than 1 minute on that question if you are to finish the question paper. If you spend more than 3 minutes, it means you don't understand. It's either you don't understand the question, or you don't know how to start that particular question, or you are just confused. You are a confused soul. Okay? So make sure you look at the marks. Okay? Look at the marks. Now this is how you get your 3 marks. You get a mark for knowing that at b, for substituting f of x or y with 0, and then for finding the factors, and also for the correct choice of x at b, which will be minus 2. Okay? So the coordinates will be minus 2 and 0. If you do this, even if I'm not with you in the examination, I will clap hands for you. Okay? Because you got your 3 marks. Then after getting the b, the coordinates of b, what do? Exactly. You are clever. Write them. Write them so that you don't forget. Now you see our graph is being populated with information. Okay? Now, let's proceed. We'll look at solution for 5.5. 5.5, determine the coordinates of E. But what is E? E is the point of intersection of the two graphs. And what did I say about the point of intersection? You forgot. No. Yeah, exactly. Now you remember. At the point of intersection, what is happening? The two graphs, the equations of the two graphs are equal. And then what is the equation of f of x? What is the equation of g of x? Exactly. Then we'll just say, all right, f of x at E, we know f of x is equals to g of x. Okay? Then you substitute your f of x with what? X squared minus 4, and then your g of x with minus x plus 2. Then you write this in the standard form. And writing it in the standard form, it means you take everything on the right-hand side, you take it to the left-hand side. Okay? Then we'll have minus x will become positive, and then positive 2 will become negative 2. And then we have like terms here. You add them. Minus 4 minus 2 is minus 6. Then we have a simple quadratic equation. Quadratic equation in a standard form. Okay? Now we must factorize. We need the factors of minus 6. When you add them, they give you positive 1. When you multiply them, they give you minus 6. And that will automatically be x minus 2 and x plus 3, which is equals to 0. Right? Now, why are we having two factors? It's because the highest degree. Okay? The exponent here is 2. So we must have 2 values of x. Okay? So it means x is equals to 2 or x is equals to minus 3. So you start to realize something. The x is equals to 2 here. The point of intersection of f and g is not E only. It's also A. At A, f and g, they intersect there. Okay? So it means the 2 here is for x. Is the x value at A because it's positive. But when you look at E, E is a point in the second quadrant. And in the second quadrant, x is negative. So automatically the negative value of x will be for E. The same way that we got the negative value of x at b, because b and e, they are all on this other side of the of x. This on the negative side, on the negative part, or the negative part of the x-axis, and in the second quadrant. Okay, so it means at e, x is equals to minus 3. But the question is, when we talk about the coordinates, you are actually talking about two values. You must have the value of x and the value of y. So we already know the value of x, which is minus 3, but we don't know the value of y. How am I going to get the value of y? You take x minus 3, you substitute it in any of the equations, because this is a point on the two graph. So e is a point defined by this graph, by g. It's also a point defined by g of x, because at this point they are equal. So you can choose. Somebody will say, okay, I will substitute. I will say, okay, I will use g of x is equals to minus x plus 2, because e is on the straight line. So if you use that one, then where you see x, you will actually put minus 3. So don't forget, this is minus for the equation, and then this is minus 3 for x. So negative and negative is positive. 3 plus 2 is 5. But somebody would say, no. Why are you using the equation of the straight line when actually the point is on the parabola? Both of you will be correct. AE is on the parabola, is also on the straight line. If you don't want to use the straight line equation, you can also use the parabola. And if you use the parabola, you will actually substitute x with minus. So f of x is equals to x squared minus 4. Where you see x, you put minus 3. Okay? Then from the minus 3 whole squared is 9. 9 minus 4, then is 5. Okay? It will still give you the same answer. So it means when x is equals to minus 3 at e, what is the value of y? It's 5. Therefore, it means the coordinates of e will be minus 3 and 5. Okay? How hard is that? Very simple. Okay? This is how you'll get your 4 marks. Okay? You get a mark for equating, for knowing that at the point of intersection the two graphs are equal. You get a mark. Okay, I jumped a mark here. You get a mark for writing this equation in a standard form. Or if you don't get a mark for writing it in standard form, you get a mark for the factors. Then from there you get a mark for choosing for the correct choice, for knowing that x is equals to minus 3 at e. And then from there, you get a mark for the corresponding y value of x is equals to minus 3, which will be the coordinates of e, minus 3 and 5. Then after that, what are you supposed to do? Exactly, take it, write it here. Okay, after getting your forms, then you write it here. So you see we are populating the graph. Okay. So without wasting time, let's continue and check questions. You look at question 6. Question 6 is divided into 2. So we'll start with the solution for 5.6.1. Okay? Now the question says, for which values of x? We are looking at values of x. Will f of x be less than g of x? Okay? There is something that we know. We know that at e, what is happening? X is equals to minus 3. Okay? Because we need to divide this graph into sections. Okay? So now, we also know that parabola is symmetrical. When you say it is symmetrical, it means there is an axis of symmetry that will pass through the turning point, because C is our turning point, is also our y-cut. Okay? So it means the distance from the axis of symmetry to any point on the parabola will be equal to the distance from the very same point to a corresponding point, which will actually form a straight line to the other side. So it means this distance from here to here will always be equal to from here to here. And what do we mean by symmetrical? Again, we mean the graph is actually having two parts that are congruent to one another. It means if you cut it here, if you take this part and then you fold it over, okay? If you take this part and then you fold it over, if you take this part and then you fold it over, then it means this part will actually lie exactly on top of this other part, okay? Or this one, you fold it over, it will lie exactly on top of this one. That is what we mean by being symmetrical. Okay. Now, let's check. At A, what is the value of x? We found that when we were calculating the value of x at B, we found it to be minus 2, and the other one was 2. The very same thing apply. When we were finding the value of x at E, another one was 2. So at A, x is equals to 2. That is what we know. Okay. Now let's take this part. You see this pink part. We check. When you say f of x is less than g of x, you mean f of x is below g of x. Or when you say g of x is greater than f of x, you mean g of x is above f of x. So it means we want a situation where the graph of f of x will be below, because it's less than, will be below g of x, or a region where g of x is above f of x. So let's check this one. F of x, this is f of x, this is g of x. So f of x is above g of x. So it means f of x is greater than g of x. This is not what we want. So this region doesn't give us a solution. Okay. Now let's look at another region where we have the two graphs. Look at this point, a point of intersection. In this pink area, what is happening? This is f of x. F of x is here and g of x. But f of x is above g of x. G of x is below. So it means in this region, f of x is greater than g of x, which is not what we want. We want a region where f of x will be below g of x. Okay? Now let's check this part. This is the remaining region. If you check from here, from E going, you see this region. This is our line. This is f, and then this is g. Understand? So f is above, g, this is g. G is above f of, it means our f, the graph of f, is below. When it is below, it means it's less than. Okay? Below, this is a typing error, it's not greater. Change it. It must be below. It means it's less than. Okay? Note this. This is an error. Okay? This is below. So f of x is less than. So this is the region that we want. So, but we are looking at the values of x here. So we want the values of x. So the value of x, so the region, this region starts from E and then it ends at what? At A. So we want the value of x at E and the value of x at A. So at E, x is minus 3. And then at A, x is equals to 2. So it means the region where f of x is below g of x, it's between x is equals to minus 3 and x is equals to 2. So it means x must not be minus 3, because if it is minus 3, the two graphs are equal. It is not, f of x is not less than. And then if it is a, it is also not less than, but it must be between. Therefore, you must be careful of your notation. All right. So it means this part will not give us the solution. This one will also not give us the solution. The solution will lie here. All right. Now let's check it. So it means because here x is equals to minus 3, then our solution will be x must be between minus 3 and 2. But minus 3 and 2 must not be included. That is why I'm using less than, less than. It's not. But if they were included, it will be less than or equal. So be careful of the notation here. Or if you don't want to write it in an inequality notation, you can write it in an interval notation. Okay? You will say x is an element of an open interval. It is open because we are not including minus 3 and 2. That is why we are using open brackets. Okay? So this is how you get your 2 marks. You get a mark for the critical values. For minus 3 and 2, you get a mark. You also get a mark for using the correct inequalities here. Even here, you'll get a mark for minus 3 and 2, and also for using the correct brackets for the open interval. Okay? Very simple. That is how you get your 2 marks. Okay? Let's move on. Let's look at the solution for 5.6.2. Here we are saying f of x multiplied by g of x is greater than or equals to 0. It means our solution, the product of the two graphs, must be 0 or it must be positive. Okay? Now let me remind you this, that when you take the positive and multiply it by positive, it will give you positive. It means if f of x can be positive and g of x can be positive, then our answer is going to be greater than 0. Okay? And that is what we want. This will be a solution. But if f of x can be positive and g of x is negative, then our answer will be negative. And this will not be a solution because this will be less than 0. Okay? But if f of x can be negative and g of x is also negative, when you multiply the two, they will give you positive, and that will be a solution. But since multiplication is commutative, if it can be vice versa, f of x can be negative and g of x is positive, the answer will be negative, and that is not the solution. So our solution for 5.6.2 is when g of x and f of x are both positive, or when they are both negative. But what do I mean by both positive and by both negative? Okay, I'll explain that. But let's look at this. At B, we know x is equals to minus 2. Okay, remember, any value above the x-axis, any value of y, f of x represent y. So this is y for the parabola, and g of x is y for the straight line. Okay, any value above x, any value of y above x will be positive, and any value up below x axis will be negative. So it means any part of the graph above, any part of f of x above the x-axis is considered positive, and any part below the x-axis is negative. Okay, any part of g above the x-axis is positive, and any part below it will be negative. Okay, so now let's check these regions. From B, let's look at B. Okay, this region, you check this part. This is our f, it is above, it is positive. And then you look at G up to here, it is above, the x-axis is also positive, then it is positive. And this is what we want. So this will give us a solution. Let's look at another region, okay? Because here in this region, f of x multiplied by g of x is positive, which is what we want. Because positive, it means it's greater than 0, okay? Now you check this region. Let's check this region. F of x is above, it means it's positive. But g of x is below the x-axis, it means it's negative. Our answer will be negative. So this will be valid if it was less than. But now because it's greater than, it means this region doesn't give us a solution. Okay? Now we are left with this region in between. Okay? So here it means f of x multiplied by g of x will give us a negative answer, which is not a solution. But here, when you multiply them, they give you greater than 0 is a solution. Then let's look at another part. If you look at the part here between B and A, or A and B, you realize this part from here up to here is G. It's above the x-axis, is positive. And this part of the parabola is below the x-axis, then is negative. So we have positive, okay, multiplied by negative, which will give us negative, and this will not be a solution. But remember, this is saying greater than or equals to. It means even when you multiply them and they give you 0, then it's also a solution. But they will only give us 0 where? At the point of intersection. And what is our point of intersection in this case of the two graphs? What are our point of intersection of the two graphs here on the x-axis? It will be at A, at E. Okay. Here we have f of x multiplied by g of x, which is negative. But at this point, when you multiply f of x and g of x, they will give you 0, which will be a solution. Okay, which will be a solution. Because y here, y, the value of y of g is 0, because it's x-intercept. The value of y here is also 0. So 0 multiplied by 0 is 0. So it means equals to 0 is satisfied by this point. Okay? So now it means this part is a solution, because when you multiply the two, they give you a positive answer. But this is not a solution, because when you multiply the two, they give you a less than 0, which is negative. And this part, it's a solution, because the product must be equals to 0 or greater than 0. But this one, because when you multiply the two, they give you a negative answer, this will not be a solution. So it means we are only having two solutions. From this point, from the value of x, which is minus 2 downward, and when x is equals to 0. Okay? So it means at this point, we know x is equals to 2. Okay? So it means x must be less than. It must be anything in this range. Anything less than or equals to 2. Or it must be 2 exactly, because at this, 0 multiplied by 0 is 0. Okay? At this point, the y value for f of x is 0. The y value for g of x is 0. 0 multiplied by 0 is 0. And then it's satisfied by the equation, because equals to 0 here, it is this part. If you don't want to write it like this, you can still say, or you write it in an interval notation. Then it will start from negative infinity, then it will end at minus 2. So it means it will be x is an element of an open closed interval between minus infinity and negative 2. So we are using a square bracket here because minus 2 is included, but you cannot include something that you know. You can't include minus infinity. We don't know that one. Okay, and this symbol means it's a union. It's or. Okay, if it was looking down, it will be and. But in this case, is x is less than or equals to 0, or. So the or is the union. And then how many values do we have in the set of x? It's only one element in this particular set, which is x, which is 2. So it means x is an element of an open close interval between minus infinity and negative 2 union set of only one element, which is 2. Okay. So this is how you'll get your 2 marks. You'll actually get a mark for the first answer and a mark for the second answer. If it was in this particular case, you get a mark. This is for the minus 2 and the correct notation. Even here, it is for the correct notation and for minus infinity and minus 2. And also for union and set bracket and a 2, you also get a mark there. Okay. So if you write it in any fashion, in any way, that will be correct. And I will clap hands for you. Okay. You get your 2 marks. Okay. Now, people, we are heading towards the end. Let's look at the last question. Okay. The last question, we'll look at the solution for 5.7. It says calculate the length of AK. There are many ways in which you can calculate the length of AK, but I'm only going to focus on one. All right. In this case, I'm going to use the distance formula. You can also use the Pythagoras because you already know that this triangle ABK is a right angle triangle. So if you know the value of BK and you know the value of AB, then you can determine KA. Okay? And the same thing apply. If I know the coordinates of K and I know the coordinates of A, I can use the distance formula. All right. Sorry. Now, we can both agree. We can all agree that the value of x at K and the value of x at B is the same because BK is parallel to the y-axis, or BK is perpendicular to x-axis, okay? And this is what? Minus 2. But at the same time, we know that K is a point on G of x. It is not a point on f of x. It is a point on G of x. It means the equation that we are supposed to use here is G of x, not f of x, okay? Now, because we already know the coordinate of x at K, we want to know the corresponding value of y at K. Okay, so we'll actually look at the equation of G of x since K is a point on G of x. Okay, then when x is minus 2, then what will be the value of y? Okay, so we look at G of minus 2. So this is minus for the equation, minus 2, then negative and negative is positive, 2 plus 2 is 4. So it means the corresponding value of x is equals to minus 2, y value is 4. So by default, it means the coordinates of K are actually minus 2 and 4. But remember, the value of x at A is actually 2. Okay? And then we know y is 0 because this is the x-intercept. So the K coordinates will be minus 2 and 4. All right. Now, this distance that we are talking about, we will use a distance formula for AK. Okay? AK is equals to, this will be x1, y1, x2, y2, or you can still say x2, y2, x1, y1, it doesn't matter, but in this case I'm taking x2 to be this one, so it will be the values of the difference of the values of x minus the first value of x minus the second value, which is minus 2 whole squared, plus the first value of y minus the second value of y, which is 4 minus 0 whole squared. So minus 2 minus 2 is minus 4 whole squared is 16, 4 minus 0 is 4, 4 squared is 16, 16 plus 16 is 32, so it means AK is equals to square root of 32. Or you can simplify it, then it will give you 4 root 2, or you can write it in a decimal form, any form, whether you write it as root 32 or 4 root 2 or 5,66, round off to 2 decimal places, always, unless the question states otherwise. Okay, so this is a distance. That is why I'm just saying units, because we don't know whether this is millimeters, centimeters, or kilometers. Okay, basically that is how you'll actually do it. Okay, if you don't want to do it like that, you can actually determine the value of KB in this case, because this is 4 minus 0, which will be 4. Okay, and then you also determine the value of BA. The value of BA, this is the horizontal distance. You look at the values of x. So 2 minus 2, it will be 4. Okay, so you have 4, 4. Then you can determine this one by using Pythagoras theorem. However, because we use the distance formula, let's see how we actually get the 4 marks here. Okay, you get a mark for finding the value of x, or for realizing that the value of x at K is minus 2, which is the same as x is equals to b because of this. Because of b is parallel to y-axis. I've indicated, rectify this, y-axis, or bk is perpendicular to x-axis. Okay? And then we also getting a mark for getting the corresponding y value when x is equals to minus 2 at k. Alright? Then from there, that will actually help us get the coordinates of k. And the coordinates of a, we know them already. We found the value of a to be of x at a to be 2 when we were determining the value of x at b, and also when we were determining the value of x at e. All right. Now you also get a mark for using the distance formula. You also get a mark for the final solution. How hard is that? Very simple, folks. This is why mathematics is very simple. Now you look at your graph. It is now populated. Initially we didn't have these values. Okay, we started by getting the coordinates of c, we find the coordinates of d, we find the distance of cd, we find the coordinates of b, we find the coordinates of e, we find the coordinates of a, and then lastly we were supposed to determine the length of ak. You get my point? So every information that was given here, we actually utilized it. Okay, because when we were finding the corresponding values of x, we were, for parabola we would use this equation. For the straight line we'll use this equation. And then we also knew that if these are x-intercepts, it means y is equals to 0. If these are y-intercept, it means x is equals to 0. And then we also knew that if bk is parallel to y-axis, it means it is perpendicular to the x-axis. Okay, and then we also used the fact that at the point of intersection the two graphs are equal, which is at a and e. Okay, this is how you get your 4 marks. That's how you get your 4 marks. Sorry, this is a typing error. This is 4 marks, not 2 marks. And then in total you'll be having 18 marks. So 18 marks is a lot of marks. So this is one section of the functions in the final examination. So functions actually have a lot of marks. More than 30% of the question paper is actually functions. So if you've passed functions, you're already having level 2. Okay. So now the knowledge, the information that I gave you in this video will actually help you if you are a grade 11, if you are a grade 12, and more specifically the grade 10s. Okay. Bye for now, and God bless. Lastly, the same thing you'll do after getting the 5.66 units, you write it in there, and now your graph is populated, and then you have done your maths. Okay, very much. Good night, goodbye, whatever. So please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with family members, friends, colleagues, you know, course students, anybody that can actually benefit from this particular video. Okay, your comments are very important to me. They help me to actually develop and create better videos in the future. Okay, tell me what you want me to teach you in your comments, stuff like that. Don't forget to hit that notification button so that you will be notified of my future videos. And thank you for watching, and God bless you. Goodbye for now. Amen.